Hey, it's your friend SJ and welcome to the Wellness and Wellies podcast. Hey friend, today we are going to be talking testosterone, which might be a hormone that we normally associate with men, but actually it's just as vital for us women. Now, if you have been struggling with feeling tired all the time, perhaps you have no interest in having sex with your partner, maybe you're finding that you're doing your workouts but you're not gaining any muscle, or you're really struggling with building strength, or you are struggling with brain fog, then actually it might be because you have got low levels of testosterone. Now, it's really interesting because when we talk about menopause, we normally talk about like declining estrogen, declining progesterone, those two female hormones. But we as women do have a small level of testosterone, which often spikes when we are ovulating. And in menopause, that level of testosterone can drop. And that's why you might be experiencing like this tiredness, this lack of libido. You might be struggling with your muscle strength, and you might be struggling with brain fog. And we're going to be talking about like exactly what testosterone does, how it works in our body, but also what you can do about it. And I'm going to share my experience that I've been going through recently with testosterone and what I have been doing to try and help and support myself with that. So let's start by talking about what exactly testosterone does for women, because it really does support us in a range of physical and mental functions. So the top one of my list is libido. So the benefit of having testosterone is that it does increase your libido, your desire to have sex. And a lot of that is down to when you think about when you ovulate, as I mentioned earlier, like that time when your body is most fertile, you will have a slight rise in testosterone. And the benefit of testosterone is that it boosts your sexual desire. And for many women, as we go through menopause, we may experience a dip in libido. And I have to say, like being completely truthful, this is something I really noticed over the past year or so. I was just not interested. I was not interested because I was so tired, and I just wanted to go to bed and be left alone. And I had no interest in having any kind of relationship like that with Tim. I was just literally going from one day to the next, feeling exhausted all the time. And the last thing that was on my mind was that. So if you really feel that you are struggling with that, you're struggling to feel that sense of connection with your partner, then it could be because you might be having low levels of testosterone. Now, another thing that testosterone does for us, so number 2, is the mood. It can help our mood and it can improve our mental clarity. So this was another big warning sign for me. As I mentioned in the last podcast, I had really been struggling with my mood. Like, we had gone through a lot of stress. We'd had a lot going on with move house, but my mood was so low. And I would go out for a walk with the dogs, and I'd stand in one of the fields on the farm just looking at this beautiful scenery around me. And I would just be thinking, would anyone actually miss me if I wasn't here? What have I got to look forward to? Why am I here? And my mood was so low, and I just felt so unhappy, and I couldn't really kind of work out why. But then some weeks I was okay. So it really didn't make sense. Another thing that I have also struggled with over the past year and a half has been mental clarity, like this brain fog. It just feels like you're trying to trudge your way through this kind of bog and that you're trudging, your feet are stuck in this mud because you're so tired, and your brain, you're trying to look through the mist and you can't see anything. It's so demoralizing and so frustrating. And if you have a job and if you're a mom, you've got to remember all the stuff that kids need. Chloe at the moment, she's doing 4 different dance classes a week, and each one of those has its own outfit. And then we are, having to remember like places to be and things to do and stuff for this and stuff for that. Like, if you're trying to juggle all of that and a job and your testosterone is low and your brain fog is it's just so frustrating and it's so demoralizing, because you're thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, why can I not get myself together? And honestly, friend, it's really not you, it's your hormones, and it potentially could be testosterone. Now, another big sign that perhaps you are struggling with low levels of testosterone as you're going through perimenopause, menopause, is that you are like your muscle mass is decreasing and you're struggling like with your strength. Now, this was something for me as well. This was like a big sign because I work out every day, and you've probably seen me over on social media, like cycling on my Peloton, lifting weights from my like body workouts, and I was struggling. Like was really like weights that I found easy to lift before, all of a sudden were becoming so hard, and I could tell that I was losing like muscle. I'd put on fat. I mean, that's a whole different story anyway. But I was putting on fat, and I was just really, really struggling to lift weights and to do things like press ups and to hold a plank and those kind of things, like in my workout that I would have normally done absolutely fine. So that can be a huge clue as well, particularly if you're somebody who does work out regularly and you kind of know what your sort of basic benchmark strength levels are. If you are struggling to kind of hit those, it could be because your body is struggling with low testosterone, because testosterone does promote like muscle strength and bone health, and testosterone can actually help in reducing the risk of osteoporosis, maintaining muscle tone, and this is really important, particularly as your estrogen levels do decline. And as you get older, like, it's so important. Having strong muscles and having strong bones are so important as we age, because that risk of osteoporosis is really, really high in women, and so many women struggle with like problems with their hips and need operations and that sort of thing. So that's why, as we're going through perimenopause and menopause, thinking about these hormones and the long-term effects that they have on your body is really important. And this is one of the reasons why we talk about strength training so much as well, because we want to build that muscle. We want to make our bones nice and dense so that when we're in our 60s, 70s and 80s, we're still really mobile. Okay, so let's also talk about energy, because testosterone is really important when it comes to energy. And you might find yourself, like I was, just feeling like exhausted. I would hit like 2-3 o'clock and I would need to sleep and I would need to sit down. So I used to kind of put Chloe, like sit her down in front of the TV, and I would just literally have a nap for like 15-20 minutes because I was so tired. And I was like going to bed at a normal time. I was going to bed earlier than normal. And I was finding that I could barely drag myself out of bed in the morning. I was so tired. So if that's how you're feeling and you think that, you're getting all the other things right, like your sleep hygiene, you're going to bed at a decent time, like those sorts of things, it could be because you're struggling with testosterone levels. So fatigue is common in menopause, and that can actually, as I'm saying, be linked to a drop in testosterone. So thinking more about you, like testosterone and how it can help with your energy, but also your endurance. And, your endurance could just be like getting through the day and getting your kids to school and getting stuff done. Like, if you're struggling to do that, whereas before you've kind of found it okay, I mean, let's be honest, like being a parent isn't easy, but if you found it okay in the past, but all of a sudden you're finding it harder than normal, that could be a sign that you've got low testosterone. And the last one that probably isn't quite so obvious in terms of the feelings that you have on a day-to-day basis is the importance of testosterone and how it impacts your heart. So testosterone, I'm going to put my teeth back in, helps to regulate cholesterol and blood sugar. So when you think about it, okay, this hormone can help regulate your blood sugar. The levels of blood sugar is linked to levels of insulin resistance, and that can then also then be linked to the amount of fat that you are carrying in your body. And this is one of the reasons why, in general, men have higher muscle and less fat. And testosterone also can help regulate cholesterol as well. And that supports your cardiovascular health, which is really important for women because we are potentially at an increased risk of heart disease post-menopause. So one of the things I noticed when I was working out, because I wear a heart rate monitor, I was looking at my heart rate and I could see that my heart rate was quite high and I was kind of struggling a bit on my cardiovascular exercise and I wouldn't normally be. And it wasn't because I wasn't working out. It was down to the fact that I was just tired and I was exhausted and it just felt like something missing. And the missing piece might be testosterone. So let's talk about what you can do and whether you can find out whether this is something that you need to look at. So first of all, if you feel that this is something that your body might potentially be struggling with, and you might be somebody like me who was on HRT, so I was using estrogen patches and taking progesterone tablets, but I was still struggling. And I'd gone to my doctor and I'd explained to her about my moods. I'd explained to her, that I was feeling more tired at certain times of the month, and she increased my estrogen, but it didn't work. It wasn't really hitting the mark. And one of the things that we don't have access to here in the UK on the NHS, so if we go to our regular doctor, they are not in the position to be able to prescribe us testosterone. But you could go to your doctor and ask your doctor to do a blood test to see what your testosterone levels are. And then regardless of where you are, you've got an indication of what's going on with your testosterone. Now, obviously, a blood test is only an indicator of a certain amount at a certain point. And I would really make sure that when you see the results from your blood test, that you are looking at the actual number, because sometimes these tests can come back and say normal, but it doesn't actually give you a quantity. So have a look at the actual number and, try and sort of have a conversation with your doctor about what it's about and how, is that normal? Is it not normal? What things can be done? So in the UK, on the NHS, your regular GP cannot prescribe you testosterone, but you can go to them and ask them for a blood test. And through the blood test, if your testosterone levels come back low and perhaps it's a bit of an indicator that you don't have enough testosterone, because at 40 years old, we have half the levels of testosterone that we have when we're 20. So of course, our testosterone levels are going to be low compared to a 20-year-old, and you're going to feel more tired and you're going to struggle with some of these things. But it's important to ask to get it tested to see if there is something that you can do and something that you can try. And your GP can absolutely test for testosterone. And if they feel and you feel that it's something that you want to investigate, then your GP can refer you to a gynecologist. And a gynecologist in the UK is able to prescribe testosterone on the NHS. So it's probably going to be a bit of a process here. I don't know, and I can't obviously talk about the experience of women in other countries because I haven't experienced it. But that was the conversation I had with my doctor. And me being me, I was kind of okay, I'm in a position financially because of the job that I have and the situation that we are, that I actually have some private medical insurance. And I was okay, I'm going to go away and I'm going to investigate a private consultation, which I spoke to you about. And during that conversation, I had a conversation with the doctor and I spoke about like my symptoms. And one of the things she gave me was testosterone. Now, it's a private clinic and I was able to claim some of the costs of that back, but we did actually have to fund the majority of it. So I could get the consultation paid for by my health insurance, but the medication and the prescription charge, because it was private, I had to pay for it. So I spoke to that doctor, and one of the things she suggested I do was to try testosterone. And she gave me a tube of testosterone cream. It cost me like £100 in the UK, and then I had to pay like £37, I think it was, as a private prescription charge. So that amount was about £140 for me to be prescribed testosterone in a tube. It's like a cream. And what I have to do with the testosterone at the moment is I use like a really tiny amount. It's like a pea-sized amount. And I have to put it either like onto the inside of my arms and on the outside of my thighs. But I have to alternate the location that I put the testosterone so it doesn't like go in the same place every day. And then I have to make sure that I wash my hands thoroughly afterwards to get like any residual cream and things off. So I've been doing that now for 2 weeks. And I can honestly say like these past 2 weeks have been so much better for me. Like so much better in so many different ways. So first of all, like a month ago, before I started testosterone, the 2 weeks before I started my period, my mood was so low. Like I was walking around the fields with my dogs on a dog walk, like wondering why I was on this earth and what my purpose was. And looking and thinking like, why am I here? What's the point? Like nobody cares about me. Like the only reason I'm here is to look after Chloe. And I really was like in such a dark place mentally. I was struggling to do my workouts, and that was really frustrating because I love like exercise. I love like lifting weights, and I was just finding like no joy in that because it was just a constant struggle. So in the past 2 weeks, those are the main things that I have noticed. Like my mood has been so much better. Like I have not been in that dark place. I have just felt normal. Like I've still felt tired sometimes. I haven't felt as exhausted as I was. Like I could still get myself out of bed and, get on with my day. But I have not had at any point while I've been walking my dogs like around the fields, I've not had any of those kind of dark thoughts whatsoever. And when I've been doing my workouts, I've really noticed that I am stronger and I've been able to do things that I wasn't able to do like a month ago, like tricep press ups and normal press ups. And I'm able to hold the plank and things that I could do before, but I was struggling with. And I'm really I'm 2 weeks in, it's early days. And yes, it's cost me money to get that tube of cream, but I really think it shows like how life-changing hormones are and how hormones impact so many different parts of our body. And I think, if you're maybe like on HRT and you're on estrogen and you're on progesterone, but you still feel like there's a piece of the puzzle missing, I really think this is something that you should go and have a conversation with your doctor about. Because obviously I'm not a medical practitioner, but I'm sharing my experience. I'm sharing this information with you because I really, really feel that we don't talk about this enough, and that by us having this kind of open conversation, it's going to help you. It's going to help, I'm sure it's going to help at least one person. Or maybe you're listening to this and you know a friend who's going through this. And you might say, hey, look, I listened to this podcast. She was talking about testosterone. And maybe it means that person goes to their doctor and has a conversation about testosterone. Like it could literally be life-changing. And I really feel like for me, over the past 2 weeks, I felt more like myself than I have done in a long time. And that is so valuable. And every woman deserves that right. Like every woman deserves to feel like that. So you can do this. You can advocate for yourself. You can get this help. It's hard, and sometimes you might have to pay for it, and sometimes you might have to go without things to pay for this. But if you think about the benefits that you being like at the best possible version of yourself, and how that impacts your family, and then also how that can potentially, like make you feel better as you go on through into your older years, like maybe giving up like a month's worth of takeaways or a month's worth of coffees, or I don't know, just finding a way to sell some stuff to get the money that you need if you need to pay for this. I really genuinely believe that it's worth doing, because your health is so vital to you, your longevity, but also your family, because they need you, they rely on you. I know you are the person that is steering this ship every single day, and you're doing all the stuff for everybody else, and you have got to put your health first. And that might mean that you need to, as a family, as a team, you might need to like give up certain things to prioritize your health. But I really believe that's worth doing. And that was the decision we made. And I sat down with Tim and I said to him, look, this is what I want to do. I want to investigate this. This is how much it's going to cost. And we were like, okay, fine. We're not going to do X, Y, and Z. And he was very much like, we need you. Like Chloe and I need you, and we need you at your best. And if this is what we need to do, then we are going to go and do that. So really, my friend, like if there's a way that you can do it and you can put pressure and advocate for yourself with your doctor. If you're in the UK, you're on the NHS, there is a way to go about doing it. It may take longer than you might like, but you can do it and you can advocate for yourself with this, and you are entitled to do so. Or it might mean if you feel that it's something you need to take action on quicker, then it might be something that you need to do and you need to fund yourself in some form. Now, for those of you, I know there's a lot of you listening in the US, like I can't like talk about what it's like in the US because I haven't been through that. I would imagine you guys, you've got some kind of health insurance. It's going to be a case of checking to see what health insurance it covers, what it doesn't cover, and just, sort of having a chat with your doctors and finding out what those kind of costs would be. So for those of you in the UK, I have linked the private women's menopause clinic that I used. They have a number of different in-person locations across the UK, but if you are living in the UK, you can do online consults with them. You can do it distance from afar, and still speak to a menopause expert and still get all the blood tests and things like that done. You don't have to go to the clinic in person. So I will link that for you. It's really high quality. My experience has been amazing, but I've got no kind of allegiance or alliance or sponsorship deal from them. I've just found them to be really helpful, and they were referred to me from a friend. So that's what I'm doing for you. Anyway, I really hope today's episode has been helpful. I hope it's just given you a bit of an insight into testosterone, how it helps. I think it's a hormone that can often get overlooked for women, and it's one that we need to think about. It's a hormone that really is so important to us, and I hope that you have found this helpful. And knowledge is power, my friend, with all of these things, and the more we know, the more we can advocate for ourselves, and the better we are going to be able to do. If you want to ask me any questions, my email address is linked below. You can find me over on Instagram and TikTok. I'll link those in the show notes. Drop in, say hi. If you've got any questions or any ideas for podcast episodes you'd like me to do, share them. And have a great day, have a great week, and I will catch you soon.